It was almost midnight when Ethan Cole sat alone in his broken van, parked at the edge of the empty desert. The wind blew dust against the windows, and the air felt dry like fire. Ethan was a man who had lost too much: his home, his job, and his hope. Now he lived off small repair work, fixing old radios and machines that nobody wanted anymore. That night he tried to fix an old signal scanner someone had thrown away. The device crackled and buzzed with static. Ethan sighed, ready to give up, when suddenly, a sound came through. At first it was just noise, but then he heard something strange, a faint voice, soft and broken. Help, please. Ethan froze. The voice didn't sound human. It was musical, almost like two tones speaking together. Then the sound repeated, the same words, same rhythm. His heart started to beat faster. He adjusted the dial. The voice grew clearer, mixed with static. They buried me. Help me. The hair on his neck stood up. He looked out the van window. The desert was silent, endless, and dark. Only the moonlight touched the dry sand. He thought maybe it was a prank, or a trick of the radio. But then the scanner made a sharp beeping sound showing a signal direction. It pointed far into the dunes. Something inside Ethan told him to follow. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the loneliness that had been eating him for years. Either way, he grabbed his flashlight, pocketed a small shovel, and stepped out into the cold desert night. The wind howled around him as he followed the signal. Every few minutes, the beeping grew louder, faster. The voice came again, weaker, now whispering from the static, "Please, I can't breathe." Ethan stopped walking. The sound came from a small hill of sand, half collapsed as if something had been buried there recently. His flashlight flickered, and for a second he thought he saw something moving under the sand. He dropped to his knees and began digging with his hands. The sand was cold and heavy. His heart pounded as he dug deeper. Then his fingers touched something soft, a hand. He froze. It was small, slim, and blue. Not bruised blue, but glowing faintly, like moonlight through water. "God," he whispered. What is this?" He kept digging. Slowly a body began to appear, a young girl no older than 16, her skin a pale blue color with thin silver lines running across it like veins of light. Her hair was white, glowing faintly in the dark. She wasn't moving. Ethan brushed sand from her face, panic rising. He checked her pulse, faint, but there. He started pressing her chest, trying to help her breathe. After a few moments, she gasped. A sharp, strange sound, and her eyes shot open. They were not human eyes. They were bright and silver with tiny stars spinning inside them. Ethan stumbled back, shocked. The girl looked around, confused, terrified. She tried to speak, but her voice broke into gasps. Finally, she whispered, "Don't let them find me." Ethan knelt beside her again, trying to calm her. It's okay, he said softly. "You're safe now. Who are you? What happened?" She stared at him with fear. "My family," she said slowly in broken English. "They buried me. They want me gone." Ethan blinked. "Your family?" She nodded weakly. "My brothers. My sister. They said, I am wrong. I must not live." The words sent a chill down his spine. He didn't understand, but he could see she was telling the truth. He helped her sit up, wrapping his jacket around her trembling shoulders. "Listen," Ethan said. "We can't stay here. Someone might come back." She looked up at the stars. Her eyes reflected them like mirrors. "They already come," she whispered. "They always come." Before Ethan could ask more, a loud humming sound filled the air. It was deep and mechanical, like an engine in the sky. He looked up, nothing there, but the sound moved closer, sharper, echoing through the desert. The girl's eyes widened. "Hide!" she cried. "They search for me." Ethan grabbed her hand, helping her to his van. They ducked inside, closing the doors. The hum passed above them, leaving a wave of static across his radio. Then, silence. Inside the van, both of them sat shaking. Ethan looked at her again, this glowing, fragile being who wasn't human. She met his eyes, frightened but trusting. He finally asked the only question he could think of. "Who are you?" She hesitated, then whispered, "My name is Lyra." Ethan nodded slowly. "All right, Lyra. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to help you." For a moment her eyes softened, a look of hope and sadness. But outside in the dark desert something else moved. A shape, tall, thin, glowing faint red, stood at the edge of the dunes, watching the van silently. Lyra's voice trembled. "It's too late, they found me." Ethan didn't sleep that night. The strange humming sound still echoed in his ears. The image of the tall red figure standing in the dunes haunted his mind. He sat in the driver's seat of his van, gripping the steering wheel while the alien girl, Lyra, slept in the back wrapped in his old blanket. She looked peaceful now, but faint blue light still shimmered beneath her skin, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethan had seen many strange things during his years working with machines, but nothing like her. Just before dawn, she woke up. Her silver eyes opened slowly, scanning her surroundings. "Where are we?" she asked in a quiet, musical tone. "In my van," Ethan said, turning to face her. "You passed out last night. I didn't know where else to take you." She looked out the window, seeing the endless desert. Her face tightened with fear. "They will come," she whispered. "My brothers, my sister. They will not stop until I am gone." Ethan frowned. "Why would your own family do that?" She hesitated. Her fingers trembled as she spoke. "Because I am not like them. I see things they do not. Feel things they cannot. They say, it makes me weak." Ethan sat beside her. "You're not weak, Lyra. You were buried alive, and you survived." She looked at him, confused by his kindness. "Humans? You protect strangers?" "Sometimes," he said with a tired smile. "Sometimes that's all we can do." For a while they sat in silence. The morning sun rose over the horizon, painting the desert gold. Lyra looked at it in wonder. "Your sun is warm," she said softly. My world had no warmth left. Ethan looked at her. "You're from another planet, aren't you?" She nodded. "From Zara Prime. It was once full of life, then came war. The old rulers built ships and fled, taking their power with them. My family, they are what remains. They want control of the galaxy, but I carry something they fear." "What's that?" She placed her hand on her chest. The blue light inside her skin glowed brighter. "A seed," she whispered. "It can heal or destroy. They wanted to use it. I refused, so they buried me alive to take it by force." Ethan felt a chill run through him. "You mean it's inside you?" She nodded. "And now, it is awake." Before he could respond, the van's radio suddenly turned on by itself, screeching with static. A deep robotic voice came through. "Unit Theta reporting. Target lifeform detected near Sector 9. Proceed to containment." Ethan froze. Lyra's face went pale. "They found the signal," she said. "We must leave. Now." Ethan started the engine. The van roared to life, kicking up dust as it sped through the desert roads. In the rearview mirror, a dark object appeared in the sky. A drone, large and silent, its red eye glowing. "Hold on!" Ethan shouted as he pushed the gas pedal harder. The drone fired a beam that scorched the sand beside them. Lyra raised her hands and a sudden blue shield flashed around the van. The beam hit it and scattered like sparks. Ethan's mouth fell open. What was that?" Lyra's voice trembled. "Energy field, but it drains me. I cannot do it for long." The drone fired again. Ethan swerved sharply, driving into a rocky canyon. The van bounced over the ground, scraping against stone. Lyra's shield flickered and died. She gasped, her glow fading. Ethan stopped behind a large rock, killing the engine. Both of them stayed silent. The drone passed overhead, scanning the area. Its red light moved across the canyon slowly, searching. Lyra leaned close, whispering, "It will return with more. They never come alone." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we need to find somewhere to hide." She shook her head weakly. "No place is safe while I live." He turned toward her, his voice firm. "We'll make it safe." For a moment, she just stared at him. "You risk your life for me," she said softly. "Why?" Ethan looked at her, his eyes tired but steady. "Because you were buried alive. Because you asked for help. Because no one deserves that. Not even someone from the stars." Her silver eyes softened. For the first time she smiled, small and sad. "Then I will trust you, Ethan of Earth." Suddenly her hand began to glow again. Strange symbols appeared in the air. A holographic map of the desert. A bright point blinked deep in the canyon. "There," she said, pointing. "That is where my ship fell. If we reach it, I can stop the signal and hide us." Ethan nodded. "Then we go there." He started the van again, moving quietly through the canyon. Behind them, the sky shimmered as 3 more red lights appeared in the distance. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered, "They come faster than I hoped." Ethan gripped the wheel tighter. "Then we drive faster than they can find." The wind howled through the canyon as the van disappeared into the dust. 1 human and 1 alien girl, running from enemies not of this world. Far above them, a metallic voice echoed through the airwaves. "Subject Lyra confirmed alive. Begin full pursuit." The sun burned over the desert, turning the rocks red and the air sharp with heat. Ethan's old van rattled down the canyon path, its engine coughing like it might die at any second. Inside, Lyra sat weakly in the passenger seat, her silver eyes half closed. The blue glow under her skin had dimmed since the night before. Ethan glanced at her and asked, "You sure your ship's down here?" Lyra nodded slowly. "It fell deep. They tried to hide it after they buried me, but I can still feel it. It calls to me." Ethan didn't fully understand what she meant, but he trusted her. Something about her voice, and soft but full of pain, made him believe every word. The canyon walls grew tighter as they drove deeper. Strange symbols were scratched into the rocks, glowing faintly as Lyra passed by them. "These are markers," she whispered. "My brothers left them. They mark the path to me." Ethan frowned. "So they can track us." Lyra looked down, guilt in her eyes. "Yes, they already are." Before Ethan could reply, a shadow passed over the canyon floor. He looked up through the windshield and froze. 3 dark ships floated above them, silent and smooth like sharks gliding through water. They shimmered against the sky, their edges bending light. Then a deep hum filled the air, making the ground tremble. Lyra gasped. "They found us." Ethan slammed the brakes, hiding the van under a rocky arch. Dust flew everywhere. The sound of engines grew louder. He turned off the ignition and whispered, "Don't move." They sat in silence as beams of red light swept across the canyon, scanning everything. The air smelled of metal and ozone. One of the ships stopped above them. A beam hit the ground just meters away. The sand began to melt, forming a smooth glass circle. Out of it stepped 2 figures, tall, dressed in metallic armor that shimmered like silver fire. Lyra's hands shook. "Kale and Mira," she whispered. Ethan squinted through the windshield. The male alien Kale looked older, his face sharp, his eyes bright red. The female Mira had long black hair that floated around her like smoke. Both had the same glowing silver veins as Lyra, but their eyes were cold, cruel. Kale's voice echoed through the canyon. "Lyra of Zara Prime, you cannot hide from blood. Come out and your death will be painless." Lyra's eyes filled with fear. "He lies," she whispered. "He always lies." Ethan's mind raced.
"Can your ship still fly?"
"If it still lives," she said. "It might help us." "Then we need to reach it," Ethan said. "We can't fight them." Mira's voice floated through the air, calm but deadly. "You should have accepted your place, sister. You were meant to serve, not dream." Lyra whispered back as if to herself. "I dreamed of peace. They dream of power." The ground shook as Kale's hand glowed red. Rocks cracked and the van trembled. He's scanning for heat, Lyra said quickly. They will find us any second. Ethan made a fast decision. He grabbed a small flare gun from his glove box. I'll distract them. You run. Lyra caught his arm. You'll die. Better me than both of us. Before she could argue, he kicked the van door open and fired the flare into the sky. The red light exploded above the canyon, drawing Cale's attention instantly. There, Kyle shouted, raising his weapon. Ethan ran the other way, shouting, Over here, you metal freaks! He didn't know if they could understand him, but they did. A red blast tore through the air, missing him by inches and blowing up a wall of rock behind him. As the aliens chased Ethan, Lyra climbed out of the van, clutching her side. She closed her eyes, focusing. The ground beneath her shimmered, and a faint light appeared from deep below. Her ship. Half buried under stone, the alien craft pulsed like a living heart, responding to her presence. Its surface was smooth like liquid glass. As she approached, it lit up with symbols. Lyra of the Seed, a voice whispered from the ship. You return. I need your help, she said breathlessly. Hide us. The ship's light spread across the canyon, bending air and heat, cloaking the area. Meanwhile, Cale cornered Ethan against the canyon wall. He raised his glowing weapon. Where is she, human? Ethan, panting, stared back. You'll have to find her yourself, Cale smirked. Then die with her. He fired, but before the blast hit, a shockwave of blue energy erupted through the canyon. Rocks lifted into the air. The ships above flickered. Lyra stood at the center of the storm, eyes glowing brighter than the sun. Her voice echoed strong and clear. You buried me once. Never again, Cale shouted in rage. You dare! The blue wave hit him and Mira, throwing them back into the sand. The ships above spiraled out of control, vanishing into the clouds. When the light faded, Ethan stumbled toward her. You saved me. Lyra smiled faintly, though she looked weaker now. No, you saved me first. She fell into his arms, barely conscious. Around them the canyon was silent again, but in the distance, faint red sparks burned in the sky, regrouping. The hunt was far from over. The sun was setting, bleeding orange light over the desert when Ethan's van rolled again, coughing and rattling. Dust blew across the cracked road as they left the canyon behind. Lyra sat beside him, pale and silent. Her glow had faded to a weak shimmer. Ethan kept glancing at her. You okay? She nodded slowly. I used too much power. The seed inside me needs rest, but they will not wait. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tighter. You mean your brother and sister? Yes, Cale and Mira. They will return with more hunters, machines. The Zareth never stop. He didn't understand half of what she said, but the fear in her voice was enough. Behind them, far away in the sky, red lights blinked faintly. Her family was coming back. They drove until night fell, following the map Lyra had made from her glowing symbols. The stars stretched across the sky, endless and cold. Ethan's eyes burned with exhaustion. You sure this map leads somewhere safe? Lyra looked ahead, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. It leads to the old city. My people once built it under your desert, long before your kind walked here. Ethan blinked. You mean there's a city under this place? Yes, buried in sand and time. But the machines still sleep there. They listen for me. Her words sent chills down his spine. You make it sound alive. Lyra turned her head, a faint smile on her lips. It is alive. Everything my people built, lived. They reached a wide, flat plain, cracked like old glass. Lyra pointed ahead. There, stop. Ethan killed the engine. The silence of the desert felt heavy. Lyra stepped out barefoot and placed her glowing hand on the ground. The air vibrated. A circle of light appeared beneath her feet, widening fast. The sand began to move, sinking inward like a whirlpool. Ethan shouted, Lyra, what's happening? Trust me, she said softly. Before he could protest, the ground gave way, and the van sank with them. Ethan screamed as they fell into darkness. Then with a deep hum, lights flickered to life below them. The van landed on a smooth metallic floor. They were inside a giant chamber full of glowing pillars and strange floating shapes. The walls pulsed like veins and the air smelled clean and sharp. Ethan stepped out, staring in disbelief. You weren't kidding. Lyra walked ahead, touching one of the walls. The surface rippled like water, showing images. Cities of silver, alien towers, stars burning blue. This was once our outpost, she said softly. A safe place. Now only ghosts remain. Ethan looked around. Then we can hide here? For a while, she said. But Kale will sense me again. He always does. Suddenly a sound echoed through the chamber and in a metallic thud. Ethan turned quickly. What was that? Lyra's face hardened. They've already found us. The ceiling above cracked open as red light poured in. 3 hunter drones descended, their wings slicing the air. They moved fast, their eyes glowing like burning coals. Ethan ducked behind a pillar. How do we fight them? Lyra raised her hand, forming a blue shield. I'll hold them off. You run to the core. What core? She pointed to the far end of the hall. A large glowing sphere pulsing in rhythm like a heart. That is the heart of this place. It can protect us, but it must be awakened. Ethan nodded and sprinted across the metallic floor. The drones fired red bolts that exploded near his feet. One hit a wall, melting it like butter. Lyra shouted something in her language, the sound like a song of thunder. Blue lightning shot from her hands, knocking one drone out of the air. Ethan reached the sphere. It hummed as he touched it. Suddenly, it came alive, lights spreading across the floor, connecting to Lyra. The drones froze for a moment as if the entire chamber had awakened from sleep. Lyra shouted, Now! Tell it my name, Lyra of the Seed. Ethan yelled it out loud, his voice echoing in the vast space. The sphere responded instantly. Blue energy exploded outward, forming a dome around them. The drones shattered into dust, their metal bodies turning to ash. Then everything went quiet again. The lights dimmed to a calm glow. Lyra fell to her knees, breathing hard. Ethan rushed to her side. You okay? She nodded weakly. The city knows us now. It will keep us hidden. For a time. Ethan helped her stand. Then we stay here. Rest. Figure out what's next. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes full of gratitude. You still help me, even after seeing death and truth. Ethan gave a small smile. You asked for help. I said I'd give it. For a moment, peace returned. But above them, miles of sand away, Kale stood on the surface with a burning red staff in his hand. Mira hovered beside him, her eyes glowing with fury. Kale's voice was calm and cold. She hides below with the human. Let her think she is safe. Soon the weapon will wake, and when it does, she will beg for the stars to burn. The sky rumbled as more ships descended through the clouds. The chase was only beginning. Deep below the desert, the city of light slept again. The metallic walls hummed softly like they were breathing, and strange glowing roots ran through the floor. Ethan sat beside the glowing sphere, the core Lyra had called it, while she rested nearby, her head leaning against a pillar of crystal. Hours had passed since they fought the drones. The air inside the city was cool and calm now, but Ethan could still feel a strange energy around him. It was like the whole place was alive, listening, watching. He stared at the blue light moving through the core. So this thing? It's part of your people's tech? Lyra opened her eyes slowly. It is more than that. The core is the heart of every world the Zarath built. It connects to living things. It feeds them, heals them, or destroys them if commanded. Ethan frowned. Destroy? You mean like a weapon? Lyra nodded weakly. Yes, but it was never meant to be one. The old rulers changed it. They turned creation into control. That is why my family hunts me. They want the seed inside me to command the cores of other worlds. Ethan's jaw tightened. So if they catch you, they will awaken every core across the galaxy, she said softly. And every living thing connected to them will bend to their will. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Then we can't let that happen. We need to destroy this thing. Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. You cannot destroy life with life. It must choose its own fate. The core must awaken fully to decide. He sighed. So, we wake it up? She smiled faintly. Together. Lyra stood, placing her hand on the sphere. The surface rippled, spreading waves of blue light through the floor. Ethan hesitated, then placed his hand beside hers. The core pulsed brighter. Suddenly a voice echoed in their minds, calm, ancient, and emotionless. Identity confirmed. Lyra of the Seed. Unknown life form detected. Connection unstable. Ethan flinched. It's talking to us. Lyra's voice was steady. Core, link with him. Human life is under my protection. Human, organic, resilient. Link established. A beam of light shot from the core, wrapping around both of them. Ethan gasped as images flashed in his mind. Alien worlds, cities in the clouds, oceans of blue fire. He saw the rise of Lyra's people, and their fall. He saw Kale, her brother, standing before armies, holding a staff made of pure red energy. He saw Mira whispering in the shadows, poisoning minds with lies. Then he saw Lyra, buried alive beneath silver sand, her siblings watching without emotion. Ethan pulled his hand away, shaking. That's what they did to you. Lyra nodded sadly. They called it mercy. The core's voice echoed again. Energy source detected above. Hostile signature, Kale of Zara Prime, preparing for defense. Ethan's eyes widened. They found us again? Lyra looked up. No, they found the core. The floor trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling as red light poured through cracks above. The hum of the city turned harsh, like it was in pain. Ethan shouted, They're attacking from above. Lyra closed her eyes. No, they are trying to take control. She reached out to the core, but the blue light began to darken, turning purple, then red. A deep voice filled the chamber, not the core's voice this time. It was Kale. Little sister, you never learn. You cannot protect life by hiding in its heart. Lyra backed away. He's merging with the core. Ethan looked around helplessly as the walls shifted. Strange black cables began creeping down from the ceiling, wrapping around the sphere. The floor beneath them cracked, glowing red. Lyra whispered, He's using his command code. I must block him. Tell me what to do, Ethan shouted. Hold the circle open, she said quickly, pointing to the glowing patterns under the core. It must not close or he will seal the link. Ethan dropped to his knees, pressing his hands against the floor. The heat was almost unbearable. The patterns pulsed like veins, fighting back against Kale's control. Lyra raised both hands, her body glowing brighter and brighter until her eyes turned white. Kale, stop this, she cried. You will kill everything, even our people. Her brother's voice boomed like thunder. Then let the weak burn. The strong will rebuild the stars. The red light pushed harder, cracking the floor apart. Ethan gritted his teeth, holding the circle open as best he could. Lyra, hurry! She screamed, channeling all her power into the core. Blue light burst from her hands, colliding with the red. The air shook. The noise was deafening. Then, silence. The red light vanished. The walls stopped shaking. Ethan looked up, blinking through the smoke. Lyra stood in front of the core, trembling. Her skin flickered between blue and white, like she was fading. He ran to her. Hey, stay with me. She smiled faintly. The core is safe, for now, but I can feel him still. He touched the seed. He knows I'm linked to it now. Ethan frowned. You mean he can track you again? She nodded slowly. No, he can feel me, wherever I go. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we finish this. No more running. Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. You would fight gods, Ethan? He smiled grimly. Only if they mess with my planet. She laughed softly, the sound like wind through glass. Then we fight together. Above them, the red ships began to descend again, their shadows stretching across the sand. The war for the alien core, and for Earth, had begun. The desert trembled, like it was alive. Miles above the buried city, red fire tore through the clouds as Kale's warships descended. Their shadows swallowed the light and the air turned heavy with static. Lightning flashed across the dunes. The hunters had come. Deep below, Ethan and Lyra stood before the alien core, its blue light flickering weakly. The walls of the underground city pulsed slower as if they were losing strength. Ethan's voice broke the silence. How long until they break through? Lyra's eyes glowed silver. Not long. The sand cannot stop them now. Kale's ship carries the spear of Zara. It can cut through worlds. He exhaled sharply. Then we have to end this before they reach us. Lyra turned to him, her face calm but her eyes full of sorrow. There is only one way. If I merge with the core, I can seal it forever. Kyle will never control it again. Ethan frowned. Seal it? What do you mean? She stepped closer. It means I will become part of it. The seed will fuse with the core and I will fade. He shook his head immediately. No, no way. There has to be another choice. There isn't, she said quietly. The seed was never meant to live inside a being. I have carried it too long. My body is breaking. Ethan stared at her glowing hands, shaking slightly. There's always another way. I'll find it. I'll help you. She smiled sadly. You already have. Before he could argue, a deafening crash echoed through the tunnels. The walls split open as a red beam sliced down from above, turning stone to ash. Dust and light filled the air. Through the smoke stepped Kale, tall and terrifying, his armor burning like molten glass. Mira followed him, her long black hair floating as if underwater. Kyle's voice boomed through the chamber. Did you really think you could hide beneath the bones of our ancestors? Lyra stood firm, her eyes glowing brighter. This is not your world to command anymore, Kale. He smiled coldly. It will be once you are gone. Ethan moved in front of her. You'll have to go through me first. Kale looked at him with mild amusement. A human? You think your fragile bones can stop me? Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he pressed a small button on his wrist, one of Lyra's crystal shards wired to his own devices. A burst of blue light flared across the room, momentarily blinding Kale. Now, Lyra! Ethan shouted. Lyra raised her hands, and the core came alive again. Blue energy swirled like a storm. The entire chamber shook as power surged through the walls. Mira screamed, shielding her face. She's activating the fusion! Stop her! Kale roared and threw his red spear toward Lyra, but Ethan lunged forward, grabbing the weapon's shaft. The impact threw him backward, pain shooting through his chest. But he held on. The spear burned like fire, but he didn't let go. Kale growled. You dare touch my weapon? Ethan gasped, his voice hoarse. Someone has to. Using every bit of strength, he slammed the spear into the floor. Blue lightning crawled up the weapon, short-circuiting it. Kale stumbled as the energy burst outward, cracking his armor. Lyra took the chance. She stepped into the core's light. Her body began to dissolve into waves of silver. Lyra, no! Ethan cried, reaching for her. She smiled faintly. It's all right. You showed me what life can be. You gave me hope. That's enough. Kyle, half kneeling, shouted in rage, You will not take this from me. He thrust out his hand, sending a blast of red energy toward her. Ethan ran forward without thinking. The blast hit him square in the chest. He fell hard, the world spinning. Pain filled everything. Lyra turned, horror on her face. Ethan! He tried to speak but could barely breathe. His hand trembled as he reached toward her. Finish it, before he wins. Her eyes filled with tears, shining like stars. Then she closed them, her voice soft but powerful. Goodbye, Ethan of Earth. The core exploded in blue light, swallowing the chamber. Kyle screamed as his armor shattered and his form was torn apart. Mira vanished into smoke. Ethan felt warmth wash over him, soft, peaceful, endless. He saw Lyra's face one last time, smiling through the light. Then everything went silent. When he opened his eyes again, the chamber was calm. The red light was gone. The core had turned into a crystal sphere glowing softly. Lyra's voice echoed faintly in the air. The seed lives on, in all things. Ethan lay on the floor, weak but alive. The core's light wrapped around him, healing his wounds. He stood slowly, staring at the crystal. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat, then faded. He whispered, Rest now, Lyra. Above, the storm had stopped. The desert sky cleared, showing 1,000 quiet stars. For the first time, the world felt safe again. But far beyond Earth, in the cold black of space, a single red spark floated, burning slowly, waiting. Kyle was not gone. The desert was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan stood at the edge of the canyon, the cool night wind brushing against his face. Above him, the stars shimmered brighter than he had ever seen. Thousands of them stretched across the dark sky like scattered diamonds. For the first time, they didn't feel far away. They felt alive, watching, listening. It had been 3 days since the explosion beneath the desert, the day Lyra vanished. The alien ships were gone, the sky was clear, and the strange hum that once filled the air had faded into silence. But deep inside, Ethan knew it wasn't truly over. He touched the small crystal shard hanging from his neck, a piece of the alien core that had survived the blast. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Every time he touched it, he could hear her voice in his mind, soft and distant. The seed lives on, in all things. He closed his eyes, remembering the last thing she said before the light took her. Goodbye, Ethan of Earth. It didn't feel like goodbye. It felt like a promise. He had buried the wreck of his van and marked the spot with a pile of stones. Now he wandered the dunes each night, searching for signs of her, or of the red light that had taken her brother. Kale. On the 4th night he saw it. A streak of blue fire tore across the sky, bright and fast, landing miles away with a distant rumble. Ethan's heart skipped. Lyra, he whispered. Without thinking, he jumped into his makeshift truck, rebuilt from scavenged parts of her alien ship, and drove toward the crash site. The air shimmered with static as he approached. The sand glowed faintly where the object had landed. He stepped out, shielding his eyes from the brightness. There, lying in a shallow crater, was a figure made of light, human in shape but radiant, silver veins pulsing softly beneath translucent skin. Ethan fell to his knees. No way. The light dimmed and slowly she opened her eyes. Silver. Familiar. Beautiful. Ethan. She whispered. You came. He laughed in disbelief, tears filling his eyes. You're alive. Lyra sat up weakly. Not alive. Not as before. The core and I are one now. I am part of this world. He reached out, touching her hand. It was warm but soft as light. You said you'd fade. She smiled gently. I did, but the seed chose differently. It wanted to protect you. It wanted to protect Earth. Ethan helped her stand. Then it made the right choice. She looked around, her gaze calm and distant. Kale is not gone. I can still feel him out there in the void. The red spark that waits, he will return stronger, colder. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we'll be ready. She turned to him. You would fight again even after all you lost? He smiled faintly. You think humans stop when things get hard? We're built for standing up again. We're stubborn like that. Lyra laughed softly, a sound like crystal bells. That is why the seed chose your world. Suddenly, the crystal around Ethan's neck began to glow brighter, pulsing with rhythm. Lyra's eyes widened. It responds to you now. The core recognizes your heart. Ethan looked down at it. What does that mean? It means you are part of it, she said. Human and seed are linked. You carry life's code inside you now. Before he could reply, the ground trembled. The stars above flickered red for a brief second, faint but real. Lyra's face hardened. He is moving. Kale's echo still lives, but he cannot reach this world yet. Ethan stared at the stars. So this isn't the end. No, she said. It's the beginning. She stepped closer, her form glowing brighter. My kind will come soon. Not to conquer, but to witness. They will see what one human did when faced with the power of gods. He smiled at her. They'll see that we don't kneel. Lyra touched his chest lightly. They will see what heart means. Her glow surrounded them both, lifting the dust around their feet. The desert wind swirled in a circle, forming a soft blue mist. For a moment, Ethan felt weightless, like standing between worlds. Lyra, he whispered. What happens now? Her voice echoed, calm and sure. Now you lead. You show them that even a small life can change the stars. Her body began to fade again, turning into threads of light that rose toward the sky. Ethan tried to hold on, but his hand passed through her like air. She smiled one last time. Wherever there is light, I will be there. Then she was gone. The mist cleared. Only the crystal in his hand remained, glowing steady. Ethan stood there for a long time, staring at the sky. The stars above pulsed once, as if blinking in acknowledgement. And for the first time, he didn't feel small. He felt seen. The world around him was silent, but the air carried a new energy, a promise of change. The seed had awakened something not just in Lyra, but in Earth itself. He whispered into the wind. She changed everything. And far beyond the edge of the galaxy, where Kale's red spark floated in the darkness, a new blue light appeared beside it, steady, defiant, and human. The war for the stars was not over, but the stars now had a protector, a human named Ethan Cole,